Where I'm from, my daddy raised me. He's like, you get your butt kicked, you heal up, and you go back after the guy who whipped you until you whip him, and it's over. And that was the one thing that was really getting on to me, is that I felt that I had been beaten. And I did everything I could, surgeries and everything, to put myself back together to go back over and to re-engage. So I went back over into Iraq in 06 and 07 and wound up getting my knees blown out, cost me my career, so it totally backfired. But, besides that, the one lesson that I've learned and that runs, is predominant in the SEAL teams is our never quit attitude. It's not that we're better than everybody else. You know what I mean? It's just you have to basically kill us before we stop getting up and coming after you. That's the way it is. We have a saying in the SEAL teams, we're not really that good, everybody else just sucks. But I'm not going to say that, because that's not the truth. But, it's just one of those factors. It's just like nothing should be able to stop you from doing anything. My whole life growing up as a kid, everyone always told me that I could never, they were like, you'll never be a Navy SEAL. Until I graduate, it's like, you won't make it. You won't ever make it. And the one thing I think about most is like, nobody knows me. Nobody knows you. They don't know anything about you. They see the outside, what they see with their eyes or anything, but on the inside it's totally different. No one can stop you from doing anything, ever, if you're committed to yourself. I got people coming up to me sometimes and just like, you know what, I could never do this, or I couldn't do that. And I just want to, because if you come out of the gate telling yourself that you can't do something, then you're already done. All right, you ain't got to worry about that. There's going to be plenty of people around everywhere telling you can't do something. I don't care how old you are or what your gender is or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. If you tell yourself you can do anything, and no matter how many times you get hit, and no matter how many times you go down, even if you're shaking up, you shake it off, you get back up, and you come at it with everything you got, eventually you're going to pass it, or you're going to be dead. And if you're dead, what's the big deal anyways, right? So that was the one lesson that I learned really well in my career, was the fact that no matter how hard I got hit, just as long as I kept getting back up and going at it, that eventually I would pass what was thrown at me.
He was a Vietnam veteran, and he just had a training camp, if you will, out on his property. And well before we got there, all the older kids were going out there. And he would get people ready to go into the special forces. So that was a unique experience. That was one of those things I wish I could have quit, because when you first started, he didn't care about you. He didn't like you. And you were more of a nuisance to him when you first got out there, because you were behind everybody else. So you really had to. I remember, I think it's probably the first 2.5, 3 months I was there, I was the worst one in the bunch. I was the weakest. I was the slowest. And good Lord, I would pay the man. He would lay into me. He left me to die twice, that I remember, and told me, he's like, I hope you die, and just walked off. I was 14, 15 years old when I started. Wow. And then I did it all the way till I finished, when I was 22 out of college. And then even after I got into the SEAL teams, when I would come back off leave or something like that, I'd bring some of my teammates home with me, and we'd go over there, and Billy would work us out and try and get us ready. My dad, he was a yeller and a violent man, and he kind of threw it on me and my brother pretty regularly, so I could handle a whooping.
Yeah.
And I can bleed just like anybody else. That doesn't bother me. But it got to a point to where when I literally couldn't do the things he wanted me to do, it was affecting me mentally and emotionally, because I just thought I was weaker than everybody else. I don't like that.
Right.
I don't like the fact that, and I'm not saying I'm a Superman or anything like that, but if I see somebody who's stronger than me and something that I'm trying to do, I'm going to work harder till I'm stronger than they are. And that's what he taught us. He's just like, you want to be here? You want what I have? You want this? Then you need to work. You need to push yourself. And there were days where I literally would have to just completely sit down in the shower just to wash my hair. And I think my mother tried to take me to the hospital a few times because I was just so beat down. And it's like, no, I'm good. I'll heal up. I just gotta get back in there. And that's what he preached. He was just every day. He's like, you're only here for a little while. So like, take full advantage of it. He goes, when you slide up to the pearly, he goes, when you get up there and you're checking in, he goes, you can either walk in there with a perfect, pristine body and And I'm sure they're going to look at you going, you didn't take advantage of anything I gave you. He's like, when my boys, Billy, when he referred to him as his boys, he goes, when y'all get up there, y'all going to slide in there sideways, and they're going to go, good Lord, you took advantage of everything we gave you. I mean, it's baling wire holding us together. Your parents are there to mold you and guide you, and if you don't have that or whatever. My brother and I molded our character and the way we would live our lives as a direct opposite of what my father was.
So you can learn what not to do.
Right. I don't run a cop-out to people who's like, oh, my father beat me, and this is why I'm a serial killer.
Yeah.
My father beat me every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first time I ever got knocked out was by my dad. So I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have anger issues. Well, I mean, when I was working, it was a different story because I got paid to do that. But anyways, I've never even raised my voice to my wife. She's never seen me angry. I've never cussed at her or anything like that. She's the most important thing in my life. So are my kids.
That's great.
And I don't believe in that. So I mean, if they're dealing with that, it's just to stay focused and keep the course and know that you're better than that. And I mean, sure, anybody can cop out and be like, well, I was dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
So what? Everybody is. Life's tough. Suck it up.
That's right.
And just, push forward. I think that's one of the things that makes the training so tough is just knowing that in the back of your head, like any second now I could be gone for whatever reason. Injury, they don't like me, they want to, whatever it is, I'm out of here. And if you want something so bad, you were literally put on this planet to do that job, and it's in the hands of somebody else, no matter how hard you took it. I told them first, I made a point to go up to the instructors. I said, you're going to have to kill me to get me out of here. I'm not going anywhere. And they were like, well, all right, we'll try and get that done. And they did. So they tried to kill me.
So you told the instructor that?
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was new. I was young. I was like, hey, I'm beating on my chest.
Yeah.
You're going to have to kill me to get me out of here. That was the stupidest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I had a lot of crosses to bear when the thing about BUD/S training is that no matter who you are or what kind of athlete you are,
They'll find the weakness.
they'll find it and they'll exploit it. Well, I had plenty of them. The only thing I had going for me when I got in there is I could swim like a fish. And
Now, where did you learn how to swim in East Texas?
well, my father was a collegiate swimmer.
Oh,
and
okay. Well,
Eagle Scout and
yeah.
all that stuff. So apparently, I don't remember this, but when we were young, my dad took my brother and I by the back of our shirts and threw us in this river/pond, and my brother drowned and wound up in the hospital. And somebody pulled me out. That was his way of saying sink or swim kind of deal. But we learned how to swim, and that's what I was good at.
So you had how many people in your BUD/S class started the class? How many people started with BUD/S, and how many made it?
164 started, and 10 made it. And my brother had 254, I think, and 16 made it.
Whoa. And you broke your femur.
I did.
How did that happen?
It was after Hell Week, and we were doing there's this evolution called the Monster Mash. It's kind of a Hoo-Yah type deal. I think you run 6 miles, you come in, you jump in the ocean, you swim a mile and a half, you come back, you run an oak course, you do the 80-foot rope climb and everything. Well, something happened, and I'm trying to figure out what it was, but I did something to upset one of the instructors, I think, and he made me carry a car tire. So I had this car tire around my neck, and I did the whole thing, and I tried to swim with it. I swam out through the surf and was swimming through the ocean, and I didn't make it the whole mile. I started to sink. So I towed that thing in, and I came back, and I had to do the 80-foot rope climb. So I put my tire back on and had water in it, and I climbed to the top of the rope.
With a tire?
Yes, sir. And when I reached up to grab you got to hit the top of the I-beam. That's when you...
Yes.
And I started to slide, and I fell. And I fell from the top of the rope all the way down, and I landed in the sand on my feet, and I rolled over on that tire. It was kind of propping me up, and the instructor was saying, you want to quit? You going to quit? Get out of here. And I was like, no, I'm not going to quit. And I got up on the rope, and I climbed back up. Well, by the time I got out to the rope, because I was carrying that tire, everything was the ropes were real slippery and wet and sandy. And I crawled up again. I got to the top. I hit the rope, the I-beam, and I fell again. I started to slide. I actually wrapped my arm around it so I wouldn't fall straight down, and it just kind of degloved my forearm, and then my arm finally fell out of the rope, and I fell again. And when I hit the ground, I fractured my femur and my pelvis. So I'm kind of I just limped off on it. I didn't tell him anything. I felt it. It felt like I had pulled my groin.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like. And I said, I'm okay. He made me, they surf tortured me because I fell. And then I ran on it for another 2 weeks. We went to second phase and the dive phase. And when our first 4 mile timed run, I was way in the back. Well, I was always in the back, but I was way back. I think I had hit 3 miles at 45 minutes or something. And it was pitch black. I couldn't see, and it was still dark outside. And all of a sudden, these headlights come up, and the instructor said, "Who are you?" And I was like, "It's Latrell."
Yeah.
What are you doing back here? I was like, I think I pulled my groin. And they were like, well, get in the ambulance, the suburban ambulance. And they were like, wait a minute, first go get wet and sandy. And I was like, all right. So I had to go get wet and sandy down in the ocean. I get back in there. They take me to the hospital. I get a bone scan. And I had a 13-inch vertical crack down my femur and 11 stress fractures on this leg, 7 on this one. And my pelvis had been cracked. And they were like, we're going to have to roll you. And I was like, you can't do that. I can't be rolled. I can handle it. And they're like, no, I'm sorry. So they double rolled me. And when I was there healing up, I was on crutches. I was all, but I was still getting beat. I mean, I would crutch up into the compound and start to be like, go get in the surf. So I was laying out in the ocean in the surf, with my crutches up like this. And it was terrible. But they finally said when it was time for me to class up again, they're like, we're going to send you to the hospital and get another bone scan. If your femur's not healed up, then we're going to drop you. I said, no, it's fine. I'm good. And some of the instructors, they had started to take a liking to me. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I passed my class up run. And I got back into the class and started. And then we got all the way to around third phase. And it got to a point to where at night I would take ace wraps and frozen peas, and my bed was elevated at the foot, and I would put frozen peas from my ankles to my hips and ace wrap them, and I'd sleep like that. And then I was just chewing the 800 milligram Motrin, and my suite mate would have to wake me up 35 to 40 minutes earlier before everybody else just to pick me up, so to start walking so my legs would work, and then they would carry me up to the compound. And when we do runs, they would actually push me, or one time they tied a rope to my belt and pulled me through the run. And I would fall down, and they would pick me up. It was the whole team thing. We were a small class now, so I got through it, but it wasn't because I did it as a team. We did it as a team. If they wouldn't have helped me, I couldn't have made it through. My legs were too badly damaged, and I kept showing up. I mean, I've almost died in training more times than I died in combat. So
Really?
yes, sir. I don't think about it. I'd just be laying in the hospital and just get me out of here, heal up. I'll be stronger. Every time you heal up, you're stronger. That's what you can just feel yourself getting stronger when you've been hurt and you're laying there and you're healing up. I mean, you can actually feel your body getting stronger, and I don't know, I just kind of takes on that superhuman form. Just like, okay, I'm back. Let's go. And then I'm going to go harder and faster than I did this time. And you don't dwell on the bad stuff.
Marcus, talk to me about when you were wounded and how you made it out, the crawling and all, just a little bit about that, if you'd tell us.
I wasn't dead.
Horrible fight. Everybody had been killed. Your closest friends.
Yep. Like I said, I wasn't dead, so I wasn't just going to lay there. I had to get out of there, keep fighting. That's what I did. I just started crawling out of there. And then they'd find me, and we'd get into a fight, and I won. And I'd just keep crawling. I'd fall down these mountainsides and whatnot, and then get back up and crawl back up the other side. So.
And there was a point where you couldn't even feel anything, right, from the chest down for a while? Or?
I've been shot in the back, and for the second time, and I rolled down this hill, and everything was pretty much gone from the chest down. But my arm still worked, so.
You crawled and crawled. Mm-hmm. And then you were taken, you were taken, and these people, to the best of their ability, helped you. And then we sent 16 people in on a helicopter to rescue you. Is that am I correct? And then it were shot down.
12-year-old boy shot an RPG into the back of it, blew it out of the sky.
12-year-old boy. And then you made it home through a long and crazy turn of events. So the injuries, Marcus, that you had after Operation Red Wing, not only, I cannot imagine emotionally losing your family members, losing people that you were so close to, words can't describe it, but you physically, what did you have to deal with physically after Operation Red Wing? As far as you were shot in the back.
Well, I had multiple injuries. I had 11 through-and-throughs through my calves and quads, and shrapnel hanging out of me everywhere. I'd broken my back in multiple places. My shoulder had been torn. My knees were damaged. I had maxillofacial damage. I'd bitten my tongue in half and swallowed it, and on top of everything else. But once I got back, like I said, they had taken me down to bare bones, to nothing. I was physically weak, and I had been broken. So I just laid there in the hospital healing, and then I healed up. I had surgeries. The Taliban kind of destroyed this hand, so I had to have it reconstructed. And then once they put me back together, I went back over, got some more. Yeah, it was the coldest water and the most refreshing drink of water I'd ever had in my entire life once I got into that village. But I'm still paying for it to this day.
Yeah.
But it's a part of my life now. I don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm. Marcus, I'm going to talk about commitment and this never quit mentality. Not that we're perfect. I mean, I mess up every day. So do you. So does everybody. But I believe we serve a God who is all about commitment. And even though we've screwed up, even though we're fallen and fallible, that He is all about commitment, and He honors commitment. I know, Marcus, there are incredible benefits to never quitting. And one of them, you said, it can be even humor. Looking back and going, I have a funny story. Well, what would you say are the benefits of never quitting? Not just where you've been as a Navy SEAL, this hero, but I mean just in life, to pedestrians, normal people looking at you like, well, I mean, I'll never be this guy, but...
Well, I think that goes back to what you're saying about the never quitting part. I mean, I'm nobody special. I don't have some gift that you don't have.
That's right.
So, never quitting something allows you to, I guess the best way to put it and the way to say it is because I know what I've done in my past, I have a pretty good idea what can't stop me in the future. And if something does hit me that I haven't experienced before, then I'll just go down to that low gear until I overcome it. And then I just tuck that one down. I'm like, what else do you have for me? So most of the obstacles and adversity that I face in day-to-day life is just something that I don't even notice, and I just shrug off. If something really hard hits me, then I have to go down to that low gear to get through it, and then I do it. And Charlie Mike, continue the mission.
Benefits, as you mentioned about commitment, would be discipline, endurance, vision, creativity. You can talk about character all day long, but if you don't have commitment, if you're not committed to it, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. I mean, you have to see where you're starting. Everyone can see that. And then you have to know what the end game is. And then whatever it is that gets thrown at you in the middle is just static.
Marcus, let me ask you this: just how far, when you fell off the mountain the first time, did you fall? How many? Do you know how many feet you fell?
Probably 6,000 feet down the mountain. And it was after I'd been shot, and I engaged these three guys who had engaged me. And after I had eliminated that threat, I didn't know what to do, so I grabbed a rock and I reached out as far as I could, and I drew a line in the sand. I was like, I'm gonna crawl to that till my feet hit it. And if I'm still alive, I'm gonna do it again. That's what I did.
So you reached out, nothing was really working, reached out, except your arms here, drew a line with a rock, crawl past the line, and then drew another one.
Yeah, I did that for 7 miles, and that's when I finally found that, got to water, found a waterfall down on the side of this mountain.
God, what a metaphor. Again, no one will ever find themselves in the situation that you found yourself in. But what an illustration, Marcus, about whether it's school, whether it's about marriage, career, whatever in life. Hey, you know, I feel like giving up. This is a joke. I can't do this or that. Draw that line. It could be 5 minutes. It could be, you know, a day. I'm going to draw that line. If I get to there, then the next day I'll draw another line. Whether someone's battling with addiction, you know, drug addiction, alcohol, whatever it is. I mean, that's powerful because that waterfall is out there. I mean, the stream of water is out there.
Life, actually.
That's right.
Well, I was shot. I had multiple frag, not only from the RPG rounds themselves, but from the trees and the rocks, which actually hurt worse than the RPG blasts themselves. I fractured my spine in multiple places, my pelvis, tore my rotator cuff out. My maxillofacial damage was very severe. Didn't show it in the movie, but I'd actually broken my nose and I bit my tongue in half and swallowed it. And I had 11 through and throughs in my quads and calves. Most of the skin off of my back side and most of my front side was turned into hamburger. But as far as the pain tolerance, and most SEALs have high pain thresholds anyways, and the adrenaline that was flowing through me, on concentrating more on what I had to deal with, the task that was in front of me, and concentrating on my teammates is ultimately what got me through the initial gunfight. I was actually shot in the back the following day. It didn't show that, and that one hurt. Because my adrenaline wasn't up and I wasn't really prepared for it. But ultimately, from the time we check into SEAL training, become tadpoles and work our way up through the community, it's a selection process that weeds out the weak or the ones that can't handle it, and the ones that can are the ones that make it through it. And they put us in situations in our training that pretty much equate to everything that transpired up on the mountain that day. I still have surgeries to this very day. My communications are kind of just like cell phones out here. You're driving down the road or talking to somebody, and then all of a sudden the phone just goes down. You can't explain why. It just happens. The terrain that we were in, believe it or not, there's a lot that goes into dealing with communications, from the rotation of the earth, the sun, the clouds, and rain. And ultimately, the position that we were in to where we could get the best vantage point for our target location didn't allow us to have stable communications. That's why we had the backup with the satellite phone. No, I don't have any regrets at all with anything that I've ever done. It was a situation that we got put in that obviously we had to deal with. We tried to radio back for advice on how to deal with this particular threat. Our target that we were dealing with was very elusive. We'd been going after him for about 2 years before they finally slid him across our desk. And soft compromises are a part of what we do sometimes. I mean, working out in that area, it's bound to happen. It's their backyard, and we're just kind of trying to work our way through it. I mean, it's literally one of the things where if you go in and you take a rock and you move it from this area to this area, it's probably the rock that this guy's great-great-great-grandfather sat on to go to the bathroom or something, and it was like, hey, where's my rock? Obviously, there's been somebody up here who's not supposed to be up here. So in order to dig in and find positions to where we can get vantage points on what we were dealing with was very difficult. And that's what came in with the training and how long we'd been out there. We've been doing this. Our team, we'd been together for a very, very long time, so we were really good at what we did. The overall decision to turn them loose was well above our pay grade. I'm speaking of rules of engagement and stuff like that. And there had been situations in the past where the exact same scenario had played out with other forces, some Green Berets, and so forth and so on. You know, there's no manual that they can hand us that we wish we could look at every time something like that goes down. It's another thing. And the reason that we train so hard and train so long, and that there's so much time and money invested into what we do, is because you allow us the opportunity to make our own decisions while we're out there. I mean, it'd be like laying on the operating table while some guy's working on your heart, and you're like, hold on, wait a minute, let's call somebody else in here because I don't think you know what you're doing. Well, we do know what we're doing. So everything that we encountered out there, and all the situations that were right there in front of us, ultimately our decision is what we had to deal with and to turn them loose. Good, bad, or indifferent. The outcome obviously was bad, but we're prepared for that as well. So, I mean, being in the SEAL teams, we're outside of the box thinkers. I mean, we're not idiots. Most SEALs have their degrees, and a lot of them have their masters, and we've been in this game for a very, very long time. So the thing that we ask, and not out loud, we just hope and pray that the American public has enough trust and faith in us to do and make the right decision. I've seen so many, and I've heard so many Monday morning quarterbacks. It's the funniest thing to me because I read stuff, not too much online, but this, you know, you hear people like, oh, I'd have killed him, just did right there and there. Really? Would you? I mean, you've been there? Absolutely not. You hadn't been there. And then the other people are just like, well, you turned them loose, and that was the right thing to do, even though everybody died. So how do you weigh human life? It's a conundrum that can never be answered. It's war, and there is no right or wrong answer in combat. And those people who aren't out there carrying the rifle have no business dictating what and how we do it. And we don't want to thank you, a pat on the back or anything like that. We just want you to enjoy your life, and because everybody's made different. I mean, in real life, I was unaware of that. I didn't know that had happened. It was after, well towards the end of the gunfight, and I had already crawled into a crevice and buried myself. I just remember laying there praying. There was actually a helicopter that I believe it was an Apache that flew overhead, and I could see the pilot in the cockpit, and the militia and everybody were walking over the top of me. I mean, there was rocks falling on my head. I mean, I could smell them. They were right over the top of me, and I had this idea. I couldn't key up my radio. My battery was low, and it was making this. There's a low battery ping that comes out once that happens, and to give away my position. So I'd have to turn it off, and the thought actually crossed my mind to take a shot at the helicopter. Then I figured, well, that'd probably be a bad idea, because if you turn around, piss him off and come in here with guns blazing. But all of a sudden, while I was there, I was praying. I was like, God, please, give me something, because I was paralyzed from the waist down. In the movie, they had me walking around. I didn't walk. I crawled for over 7 miles that first night, and then and was shot again. Well, while I was laying there praying, it started to rain. And I remember going, that's not really what I was asking for, God, because you can ask any frog, man, even though our job demands us to be wet and sandy and miserable, we really don't like to be wet and sandy and miserable. So all of a sudden, all the militia left. They kind of just started pushing up the backside of the mountain, and I had no idea what had gone down. And then 2 days later, when I got the villagers brought me in there, I was in this room. They had already taken my clothes off of me. They stopped my bleeding as best they could, bandaged me up, and started to pull that frag out. And then they had left. And then about an hour later, the door kicked open, and the Taliban flooded the room. And that's when the Taliban had me. And that's when I found out that the helo had been shot down, and they were trying to tell me how many bodies were there and this, that, and the other. I didn't believe it at first. I mean, that's how loud it was on our side of the mountain, that I couldn't hear a helicopter getting blown out of the sky and roll down the hill. So that's when I found out a few days later from the Taliban. Obviously, right after the the op went down and I was rescued, they pulled him away from me. He left in the helicopter with me in real life. And the rescue was at night, under gunfire. And when we loaded up in the helo, it's funny, one of the guys who rescued me, one of the PJs, he's out in the audience right now, he's a heart surgeon. He almost shot me in the chest because I was dressed up like an Afghani and I had a rifle, and Gulab was with me and they were having to carry me. Well, the only thing that saved me, because I came up at the back side, the wrong side of the helo, and the helo actually came in to crash. The rescue is crazier than anything you just saw on that TV. The Air Force came in to get me out of there. It was absolutely insane. Well, I had come up on the wrong side of the helo, and all of a sudden there was lasers on my chest, and luckily I had fallen. I was a lot heavier back then, and I fell, and the guy behind me was a Green Beret, and he had a American flag glint tape on his chest, and it pinged, and that's the reason he dropped his weapon and didn't shoot me. And then they load Gulab and I up in the helo. We banked off the mountain. They took us to, where'd they take us, bro? ABAD or JBAD? JBAD. And then they pulled him away from me, which was a big deal. He was scared to death to be in that helo. It went from one of those things where he had been protecting me for 5 days, and when we got into that helo, he was wrapped around my leg like a wet cat, you know, and I was just kind of, and then when they jerked him away from me, I didn't have enough strength to figure out what was going on, and he pulled me back into the helo, and when they shut the door, I just remember them pulling him away, and then we flew to another base where they offloaded me onto another transport, flew me to Bagram Air Force Base, and I was in the hospital. I had multiple surgeries to put myself back together for about almost a year, and then I redeployed to Iraq in 06 and 07, and
Redeployed?
yes, ma'am, and
Didn't know that.
it wasn't a real popular idea in the community, but luckily some of the head shed, Admiral Olson and some of the other admirals gave me the blessing. All I wanted to do was go back. I mean, that's what I was born to do, and it's not that I'm messed up mentally or anything like that, but they took something from me. They beat me. And when you beat a SEAL, you better kill us, because if you don't, when we heal up, we're going to come back after you. And the only place I knew to go, I had to go back, and I went back into Ramadi, Iraq, Al-Anbar province in 06, 07, which was pretty much the worst place on the planet. And I got my knees blown out on a raid we were doing, and my spine fractured again, and it cost me my career. So after I was discharged, I remember that was the hardest thing that I had ever had to face in my entire life. Not BUD/S training, not all the injuries or anything like that. The day they told me I couldn't be a SEAL, and I was beating my head against the wall for a few years. Luckily, my wife found me, but I finally got in touch with Gulab. To get back to your question, I kind of got off tangent a little bit. A lot of my buddies that were still going back over there were keeping tabs on him, and I could communicate with him as much as I possibly could. And our community and the military, we did as much as we possibly could for their village. I mean, it's in the hornet's nest. So we would send money to build a school. The Taliban would burn it down. We built a road into their village so they could have easier access into some of the major cities. But overall, I got Gulab back over here just to visit so I could see him again. He doesn't, I've tried and tried. I'm like, hey, come here. I mean, nobody deserves to have American citizenship more than you. You fought for America, and you're not even an American. I mean, you saved my life. And he's such a proud Afghani. He doesn't want anything. He wants to stay in Afghanistan, and then, you know, every now and again come over here and see me. And it's funny. The first time I picked him up, he was telling the story. He had been, after I had left, obviously the Taliban and everybody over there are always trying to kill him. So they had burned his house down, they've killed multiple members of his family, they blew his car up, and he had been shot a few months before he came to see me. And then when I picked him up from the airport, we were driving down the road, and we had to have it in. He doesn't speak English, and my posture is very limited. And he goes, you know, my first plan of when I got here is I was going to burn your house down, blow your car up, and shoot you in the hip. I mean, that's how friendship, true friendship and true teamwork is forged through pain and blood and sweat and tears. And they did that. And they not one time did they complain about it. I mean, they realized why they were out there and who they were representing. And it was really something to watch them come together as a team. And even through the movie, it never stopped. I mean, and every day, sun up, sun down, we were always together with them, and they were together. And like he said, they're still friends today. I mean, if it came down to it, the training that we gave these guys, I mean, I could throw Taylor a rifle right now, and he could very much handle himself.
One last question to you, Marcus. Obviously, you've just sat through this movie now tonight, and you've lived again. You know, it's obviously there are changes, of course, as you said, from the reality to what actually happened. But still, you've lived through this intensity again tonight. What does it make you feel looking at the movie tonight, when you're thinking about that experience and seeing it on the screen?
I just think that Pete and Taylor and Emil and Mark and Ben and the rest of the cast and the crew, they did an absolutely outstanding job of taking what happened on the mountain that day and putting it into a film. I mean, even writing the book, I couldn't put every detail that ever happened on the mountain that day down on paper because I just simply can't remember it. But to really answer your question is I live, through that every day in my head. From the time I lay down in bed through the night, up in the morning, there's not a moment that goes by that I don't think about it. And one of my curses is the fact that every time you hear about Operation Red Wing or Lone Survivor or anything like that, my name is synonymous with that event. And anytime anybody ever walks up to me, all they ever want to do is talk about it. Nobody ever wants to talk to me about football or hunting or anything like that. They just want to talk to me about the worst week of my life. And so it's always with me, and that's the reason I stick to the friends that I've had since I was 10 years old, and some of the guys, I mean, Taylor and I are really close now. Pete and I've been real close with him for many years now because they understand it, and they've actually been through it with me now. But to see it on screen, it's just one of those things when I was like, hey, you missed something. It may look like it was miserable on that TV right there, but I can tell you it was twice as bad in real life. I know. So I just wish that, I always wish that some of my teammates would have made it out as well to get their side of the story and to make this thing, to really open it up and find out just everything that happened, because like I said, it's coming from me and I don't remember everything. I couldn't possibly put it all down.